Now, when you have clarity on those behaviors, you instantly know, oh my gosh, this is why I love to do this. This is why I always gravitate to that. There's such a confirming piece of that. Now, another really important part of the report is the stress and burnout section. And guess what? If you're in a job that you hate, if you're in a job that feels like a grind and you just have to willpower yourself through it every day, then my friend, you are in friction with your natural behavioral strength traits and transferable skills. You are participating in behaviors, or your job is requiring behaviors that are counter to who you are naturally. Welcome to the Love Your Work Life podcast, where you will get encouragement, strategies, all the things you need to love your work life. This is about transformational, strength-based coaching for career, for leadership, for life. I'm your host, Elissa Shuck. Let's get started. So I want to start today with a quote. I was looking at my bookshelf this morning, I don't know, looking for something else. Isn't that the way it always happens? You're looking for one thing and then something else kind of sparks and you're like, oh, well, maybe I should look at that. So I picked up this book. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Amazing book. It is about breaking through the blocks and winning your inner creative battles. But what I love about this book, and I read it quite some time ago before I started coaching full time, even. But here's the deal, coaching and consulting was always on my mind. And at the time I read this, that's what I was thinking about doing, thinking about pivoting to. And this book was a tremendous help in moving me to where I am today. And when I saw it on the shelf, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the perfect groundwork for what I had planned to talk about today. So I want to start with a quote in the book. He says this: most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. This is so powerful because if you think about the thing you want to do, the little voice has been saying, this job isn't right for you anymore. I don't think your values really align with the company anymore. Do you really get along with these people? Do you want to stay in this toxic situation? Like, we have this little level of consciousness that is constantly speaking to us. And when we shut that off, it's called resistance. Resistance isn't something that we consciously do, but listen, you can feel it in your body, and you can feel it because you think about what you want and then you quickly pivot to something else, like, oh, wait, I don't have time today. Oh, I'll apply for that job tomorrow. Oh, you know what? I'll update my resume this weekend because it's Thursday night football and I'd rather watch that. So resistance just has this way of seeping in and preventing us from doing the thing. And I'm a firm believer that our careers are a creative act. Speaking of another good book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I think I'm saying the title, but if you look at Rick Rubin Creativity, you'll find it. Another amazing book. But this resistance keeps us trapped, and it keeps us closed off, and it keeps us making excuses. And as he says in the book, resistance can be about finishing a painting or a poem or a screenplay, wanting to start a business, wishing you could start dieting and exercising and get healthy. Maybe you want to run a marathon someday. The thing that's preventing you from doing that is resistance. And there are three things specifically when it comes to making a bit of a career change, a career pivot that I've identified. These are so common. I coach people every day. I do virtual coffees with people. I have a link on my LinkedIn profile right there in the featured section that is basically an open invitation for anyone to put time on my calendar to talk about what is going on with them. And a lot of people take me up on it. And here are the three common things that I am seeing over and over again. And I truly believe that the root of these is the resistance. But here's how it shows up when you are thinking, I'm ready, but you never actually move off center point. It's 5 years ago you first had this idea, but you've stayed in the job that doesn't fit because it makes money and I guess you can put up with it. And some days are good, kind of like when you need to go get your hair done, get your hair cut, get your highlights redone. And then the day before, you have a good hair day. You're like, wow, this is a good hair day. Maybe I don't need to go do that. But you do, because the next day is going to be terrible again. So don't let good days interspersed with the horrible keep you from doing the thing. So back to the three things that I see everybody has in common, and I believe these are sproutings, these are evidence of the root of resistance. The first one is confusion. Most people who say, I really want to do something different, but I'm confused. I don't really know what it is. I'm not sure how my transferable skills will translate to that new thing. You have the transferable skills, but you're not sure how to use them to your advantage. You're not sure how they apply in different situations or circumstances. One of the most beautiful things you'll ever experience, if you ever decide to work with me, is your personal dynamics report. It is actually our very first session. And this is such a beautiful experience because this eliminates confusion. It is so confirming because we're talking about your personal and your behavioral strengths in the workplace. And when I say personal, I mean personal because it's really what drives you. Who are you as a person? What makes you tick? And these aren't personality traits. Personality is different. Personality can change. This is called internal wiring, behaviors that you have that underpin success in the workplace. Now, when you have clarity on those behaviors, you instantly know, oh my gosh, this is why I love to do this. This is why I always gravitate to that. There's such a confirming piece of that. Now, another really important part of the report is the stress and burnout section. And guess what? If you're in a job that you hate, if you're in a job that feels like a grind and you just have to willpower yourself through it every day, then my friend, you are in friction with your natural behavioral strength traits and transferable skills. You are participating in behaviors, or your job is requiring behaviors that are counter to who you are naturally. That's why it feels awful. That's why you're running out of steam way earlier in the day than on a work day than you do on a weekend. So this confusion is a manifestation of resistance because you're not clear on what it is. Now, you could look for this yourself. You could say, hey, wait a minute. Realistically, what could I do here? You could go to Chat GPT, actually have a prompt for that. You could say, hey, what are the things that I could be doing? What other occupations use these kinds of skills? And you're only picking the skills that you love to perform. You're only picking the strengths that feel really amazing and juicy and fabulous for you. You will get some ideas and you will remove confusion. Now, the second thing is self doubt. You know what you want, you know you have the skills, but self doubt and imposter syndrome creep in, maybe even a little fear of failure. Like, what if I try it and nobody believes me? Or what if I can't really articulate my value? What if I can't connect the dots for the other people? That self doubt can be very, very crippling. And I think it's almost worse. Well, all these things are bad. And let's be real, if you're struggling right now, there's a good chance you have a little bit of all three of these that you're dealing with. But self-doubt is such a lie. I think that's why it's so insidious, because it's a lie. You do have what it takes. You can overcome. You probably have many, many situations in your life where you have stepped into the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt and Brene Brown talk about, and you've made it happen. You have stepped into courage on the map of consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins. Courage is that first step to getting our power back. We don't even actually have to do anything, because the next step up in getting our power back is neutral. We just have to the courage to release self-doubt. So you know you have the skills, but this fear of failure, this what if I can't communicate it, don't believe that lie. You have communicated things with influence many, many times in your life. I used to tell my team, and my team were chemists and product development people. And they tended to be, pretty creative, somewhat analytical, the kind of work we were doing. Definitely wouldn't call themselves outgoing or, presenting to others, or certainly not selling anything. And I used to tell them every day, every time you influence me to pick this fragrance over that fragrance, we were a candle company, you just marketed to me. You just sold something to me. So we all have it. So don't believe the lie of self-doubt. When you know what you want and you have the skills, then you have to make the effort to set aside all of the voices that are preventing you from moving forward. Because here's the thing. If self-doubt is preventing you from taking action, and you're not taking action because you're afraid of failing, afraid of getting rejected, and oh, what if I try to get that new job and I don't get it? Guess what? You're currently living exactly what you are afraid of. You don't have the new job. So you're creating your own hell within self-doubt. Now, the third thing that I see happen is overthinking. This is another one, and this one is for the high achievers. I'm raising my hand. You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand. What does overthinking look like? Well, maybe I should take another course. I bet you if I got my MBA, then I would have the credibility that I need to get that job. Then they would believe me. Then I would, or maybe overthinking can be like it used to do to me in my job search days, is I could do a lot of different things. So sometimes thinking about, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could go down the supply chain route, I could go down the inventory management route, I could go down the sales route, I could go down the marketing route, I could go down the branding route, I could go down the business analysis route. Well, overthinking all those options was really just a clever way of avoiding going for it. Is that happening to you too? Because getting more education, getting your master's degree is not the answer. Now, of course, I'm not talking about people who you really want to be a CPA, and yes, there's a lot of certifications that go with that. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you have a pretty good idea of what you want to do. You have a sense that your skills transfer, but your brain is doing a job on you. And that is this overthinking is a clever way of avoiding making a decision and taking action. See how resistance shows up in these three things? Keeping you confused, keeping you doubting yourself, and when you decide to maybe go for it, overthinking it. This will keep you stuck for forever. This will have you in a situation that I've helped many people through, and that is I've been 10 years in this and I've always hated it. But you know what? I'm really good at it. So I keep doing it. Being good at something and crafting a career that feels good are two different things. Some other things that come in are rationalization, excuses, feelings of lack and scarcity are also very common, and they kind of tend to be little components of these three things of self-doubt, confusion, and overthinking. But there's a really simple formula for turning these blockers around. And it always starts on the inside. It always starts with something inside you to overcome and combat resistance. Here's something that is another quote in the War of Art book. Now, this is someone from, he's quoting somebody from the 5th century BC, Telamon of Arcadia. It's one thing to study war and another to live the warrior's life. It's one thing to think about there's something better for you. Or maybe if I get this certification, maybe if I study. It's another thing to get out there and make it happen, to have the courage to step out. Here's the three things. The first one is believe what you want is possible. Now, belief isn't something that you just kind of muster up. I think there's a challenge with belief because it's kind of an overused word and it has associations with faith and hope, and those aren't bad associations, but it's missing the thing that belief really is. And belief is a thought you keep on thinking. That's it. So you don't have to like go super deep. You just have to find a thought that works for you. And believing what you want is possible could be I have everything I need to make this career change. I know more than I'm giving myself credit for. What I want is possible. This is going to be an exciting experience. Seeking out that new job. You know, giving yourself the little spark of what you want is possible could just be the light that gets you through another rough day. Did you ever land a new job and or someone gave, maybe you supervise people and they gave you the 2 weeks notice, and they had what I used to call short timers disease, like their brain was out of there. They were still doing their job, but you could tell that their consciousness, their thoughts were elsewhere. You could actually do that for yourself. You could actually get through a day knowing that your day is coming. But it starts with belief. It starts with intentionally choosing and focusing on thoughts that support what you want is possible. When I was in a really bad, toxic work environment, working for a narcissist CEO, one of the things that got me through the day was, you know what? I'm out of here. And I would go home and I would look for a new job. Then I would feel good. I would see what was, hey, there's stuff out there for me. And it gave me the energy I needed to get back into the workplace and do what I needed to do that next day. So choose a thought. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. It just has to be something that translates into your heart. And what I mean by that is not necessarily feels good or peppy or something, but if you know it's a thought that's serving you, if when you think about it and you repeat it to yourself a few times, you feel a relaxation in your chest, a physical and emotional relaxation. Now, this next key to this is behave like it's already happening. That is how you walk, how you talk. Raise up your shoulders. Amy Cuddy has a YouTube video about how if you put your hands on your hips and stand up straight, it's a power pose that changes your chemicals in your body. That's behaving. Behaving is action. Behaving is how you walk, how you talk. You don't talk like you're stuck there forever. You talk like it's temporary. Every single promotion I ever got in my career, and over the course of my corporate life, I was promoted 12 times. And every single one of those I can attribute to believing that what I wanted was possible and behaving like it was already happening in my mind. That's what I was picturing, and that's how I was walking around like I had that job internally. That's the picture. And that leads me to the third thing, is becoming the person who has it. The really cool thing about becoming is that it's a natural byproduct of believing and behaving. You really don't have to do anything to become the person who has it when you believe and you behave. It all starts with the decision that you are worth following your heart's desire. Decision, my friends. Decision is where it all starts. And decision isn't really a decision. You might think, I've decided to get a new job. But if you haven't done anything, if you haven't taken action, you really haven't made the decision. A decision is always followed by action. Once you take that first step and relax into it, ideas and motivation flow. I was talking to someone the other day who is one of my clients actually, and in a difficult situation at work, very drained, very depleted, and they were on vacation out in nature. And they said, I started to feel relaxed. And as soon as I felt relaxed, the ideas and the motivation, like things started happening. And it's an actual physiological phenomenon that when you're relaxed in the heart, you get awake in the brain. So everything that you want, that you've been thinking about, that you've been shutting out, and that resistance has been pushing down, as soon as you believe and behave and relax in your chest, emotionally and physically, man, the juices start flowing in your brain. Ideas and motivation and connections. You might think, "Oh my gosh, I used to work with somebody who is now at that company. Maybe I'll reach out." We call these things synchronicities, but it's actually new awareness because you have opened up yourself to the possibilities. You are tapping into that function in your brain called the reticular activating system that helps you see the things you're focused on, physically see the things that you're focused on internally. Once you take that first step, once you relax into it, you will find yourself taking inspired action, not forced action, not willpower, not gutting it out, not a bunch of grit. That doesn't work. Hustle, grit, and willpower bring you only short-term results. It doesn't last forever. And really, hustle, grit, and willpower are coming from your survival instinct, from your sympathetic nervous system that runs on cortisol and adrenaline, which will burn you out eventually, versus inspired action, which comes from your parasympathetic nervous system that is more replenishing, has you in higher states of critical thinking. So, what's been holding you back? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Maybe it's time to set it aside. Your assignment for today is to take 10 minutes and do your best to relax your body. Just sit quietly somewhere. The weather's changing. Maybe it's changing for you. I enjoyed a wonderful few minutes outside this morning in Arizona because it's finally lows are finally in the 70s now, and I can sit outside comfortably. And I want you to take 10 minutes, do your best to relax in your heart, in the center of your chest, relax your whole body, focus on your heart, take a few deep breaths, and think about, what does my future feel like? You don't have to know what the job is. This isn't about figuring out what the job is. It's about what it's going to feel like. The how will come. Listen, if you work with me or you're already working with me, then you know we figure all that stuff out. But all you need to do today is to give yourself a moment of, what is it going to feel like to be out of here and into that? Maybe it's going to feel like relief. Maybe it's going to feel like accomplishment. Maybe it's going to feel like freedom. You decide what it feels like for you, and you will absolutely start to get the little sparks that'll help you overcome resistance and make it happen. If you have some thoughts, you have some comments, I love to hear about it. And of course, if you want to talk about it, go to my LinkedIn profile and click on that virtual coffee. It'll take you right to my calendar. All right. Take care. You know I'm always for you. If you like listening to this podcast, I invite you to visit the Love Your Work Life website at elissashuck-careercoach.com. On the site, you're going to find free resources and information about all of my coaching programs, everything you need to land a great job, advance your career, and lead and build an awesome team. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn.